It's a list about 25 years in the making, and it's coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Hey everybody, it's me, Scott Galaxy. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of The Layman Video Gamer. And today is a very special episode, very special indeed, because I have been wanting to do this video for a very, very, very long time. And the reason I haven't gotten to it until now is because this system means so much to me that I wanted to make sure that I got it as close to right for me as I possibly can. So as you already know, this episode is dedicated to the Dreamcast and the top 10 games on the system. It is my favorite system of all time, and that's why this one means so much to me. So a quick backstory, I actually made this list about a year ago, and I let it sit for a while because I wanted to make sure that this was absolutely the way I felt. I came back and looked at it yesterday to make sure I still felt the same way about the 10 games I picked, and lo and behold, I do. I still feel these are the top 10 games on the Dreamcast. My opinion, of course, is going to be different for everybody, but I feel like these are the ones that represent the Dreamcast and what it meant to me the best. So let's just get into it. Here's the top 10 list for the Sega Dreamcast, my favorite system. I hope you enjoy it. Number 10, Soulcalibur.
Namco.
The success to Soul Edge, Soulcalibur was a Dreamcast launch title that showcased the latest Sega system's superior graphics. In fact, this game is graphically more impressive than its original arcade version counterpart.
Battle 1, fight!
Critically, this game couldn't have gotten better ratings. Nearly every gaming publication at the time gave it the highest of marks, with GameSpot and IGN both giving it 10 out of 10.
This victory strengthened the soul of Kilifi. You win!
In fact, Soulcalibur was the highest rated game IGN had ever given for any game for nearly a decade. We could talk for hours and hours about the success of Soulcalibur on Dreamcast, but at the end of the day, it's a fantastic fighting game, and it was a big reason I couldn't wait to get my hands on a Dreamcast on day one.
Strengthens the soul of Kilifi. You win!
Number 9,
Jet Grind Radio!
I'll admit, when Jet Grind Radio was first released back in 2000, I wasn't sold. It just wasn't my style, and I wasn't a big fan of the cell shading graphics, and I just wasn't really interested in inline skating or rollerblades. But over the years, I really, really got into it.
Yeah! Nice!
The open 3D world and the soundtrack alone are reasons enough to try out this game, but the intuitive gameplay and quirky pop culture vibe will keep you glued to this game. The game is so quintessentially Sega, and it's so good.
Headquarters to all units. Headquarters to all units. The captain is on his way. Make sure to back him up.
Yeah! Yeah! Nice!
Number 8, Power Stone.
Welcome to Power Stone.
This is another game I didn't have much interest in back when it was originally released. If I could go back and grab myself by the collar and just furiously shake me to open my eyes to this amazing game, I totally would.
Are you ready? Action!
This is an outstanding multiplayer game, but it's just as entertaining as a one-player game. And that's because it's not your typical fighting game. It's fast-paced, it's frantic, fun, and exciting. The entire environment is interactive, and it just feels like the right amount of chaos and awesomeness in one game. The reason I chose this one over Power Stone 2 is really just because it's the original. So I would highly recommend Power Stone 2 as well. Number 7, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer.
Welcome to Tatooine, pod race fans!
This game has been released on a number of platforms over the years. The N64, Windows, Mac, Game Boy Color, Nintendo Switch, PS4, Xbox One, but the best version, in my opinion, has always been, and still is, the SEGA Dreamcast. I think we all knew, after watching Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace, that the pod racing section of the film would end up being a video game. It looked like a video game, and good news, we were of course right.
It's a new lap record!
And thankfully so, because this game is amazing, especially on the Dreamcast with those glorious color-popping, crisp VGA graphics. It also just feels right control-wise with the Dreamcast controller. This is just another one of those games I can easily go back into, pop it in, play it for hours. It is really something I can get lost in. And just like the movie, this game keeps getting better as the years go on.
Oh no! Yeah! I won!
Number 6, Headhunter. Being that I've lived in North America my entire life, I never had the privilege to play Headhunter during its original release. And that makes me sad. Very sad. Because I finally got to play this game just within the last few years, after buying the UK version. And I will say, and I'm going to use this word a lot during this list, but it was amazing. It is amazing. Truly. That kind of Grand Theft Auto open world kind of style, it just makes this a must-have game. And looking back on it now, the graphics were stellar, and they're still very, very good.
Neural resonance 120 and rising. We have core activity. Increase to 500 megahertz. Subject is conscious. Security, it's the alarm. We have a situation. Subject is dangerous.
This game had a huge impact on me, and I may do an entire video explaining what this game is all about, but for now I'll just say it's a third-person shooter that follows Jack Wade, awesome name, as he ducks and shoots baddies in the main levels and travels on his super cool motorcycle in between. I finished this during the COVID shutdown, and it really kept me entertained through that difficult time, and I wish I would have gotten this game here in the States back in 2001 when it came out, but I am happy that I finally got to play it again just very recently. Big fan. Number 5, every 2K series game. So this includes the NFL 2Ks, the NBA 2K, NHL 2K, and Tennis 2K. This is my wheelhouse. Sports games is kind of where I was at around 2000. And the entire 2K library on the SEGA Dreamcast was a godsend.
Spikes it home!
But we'll focus on NFL 2K since it was one of the biggest reasons I wanted a Dreamcast in the first place. I think like many at the time, it was a huge disappointment hearing that EA wouldn't be making any sports games for the system. I was crushed, I think a lot of people were. And then of course I heard about NFL 2K, and then I saw the images, and then I saw the footage. Holy Y2K, this was about as real a football game as I have ever seen.
It's snapped. Green throws middle. Ooh, the ball comes out. The defense picks up the ball.
Notice how many times he's been the one to come up with the football after the fumble? A good defender has to be prepared for anything.
Seriously, it looks like a real football game. Certainly at the time. Now, I bought this game on day one, and again, I was just blown away. Graphically, there was just nothing like it. Not even close.
Smith takes it right. Banging tackler. Tackled by Lyle.
The VMU card was actually functional by letting you pick your plays without the prying eyes of your opponent seeing what you chose. It was the perfect sports game.
That's the 20. He's got the first down.
NHL and NBA 2K were much the same way. Perfection on every level. And these are still all great games to go back and play today.
Behind. Aikman throws left. Smith gets it. He's hit.
Huge fan of the 2K series, and it all started on the SEGA Dreamcast. Number 4, Sonic Adventure.
Huh? What? Tails? Watch out! You're gonna crash! Ah! Tails!
I could easily pick the sequel to this huge adventure for our favorite blue friend to occupy this spot, but I chose the original Sonic Adventure because we had never seen anything like it before. Now, of course, there was Nintendo 64's Mario 64, but this was different. These graphics were clean and crisp and bright. It was fast. This was not like Mario 64. And sure, the version had some glitches and growing pains, especially with the Japanese release, but no one will ever say they weren't blown away the first time they popped this beauty into their Dreamcast. Again, the speed, the enormity of the world, the graphics, the extras like the chows, and how your VMU plays a big factor in this game, all of it. It was the best Sonic game since Sonic CD on the Sega CD. And to me, it is a core Dreamcast game that brings back all the senses I had when I enjoyed this system for the first time. Number 3, Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2. New Age of Heroes.
I should start by saying I was not a fighting game kind of guy. Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat were not games that appealed to me at the time, which is why it's even that more impressive that I have Marvel vs. Capcom 2 in my top 3 games for the SEGA Dreamcast.
Showtime. Who will survive?
Now, I've done an entire episode dedicated to this game in the past, so it's no secret I'm a fan of it, and that's because there's just something about those 3D backgrounds, the 2D character sprites, the commentary and intuitive gameplay, the music, all of that makes this an outstanding game. If you've played a fighting game before, this will be easy for you to pick up. If you've never played a fighting game before, don't worry, you'll pick it up super fast. It's really that easy. The only thing this game lacked was online matchups, which the Dreamcast was perfectly capable of doing, by the way, but I'll take this game for what it is. It's a fighting masterpiece. Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Easily my favorite fighting game on the system. Number 2, Shenmue.
Father! Why?
Now, what's to say about this game that hasn't already been said? It's about as good a game as you're ever going to see. It was groundbreaking in that it was one of the first true open world day-to-night simulators. It had the best, worst voice acting I've ever heard, and I love it.
Hi, Megumi. You got a kitten in there?
You promised not to tell my mommy.
And you could play video games inside this video game. Very, very meta. And at the time, it was the most expensive video game ever produced. But most importantly, it was just a heck of a good game. After I finished this one, I immediately went out and got Shenmue 2 on the original Xbox, which is also an amazing game, but for my money, the original Shenmue on Dreamcast will always be the GOAT.
Could you tell me about what happened with that car?
Sure. This black car came flying around the corner over by Sakuragaoka Park and went towards Dobuita.
A black car?
Let's get to the number 1 game on the SEGA Dreamcast. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I've had a lot of time to think about this one because, like I said, I made this list about a year ago, and I purposely wanted to sit on it for a while because I really wanted to make sure I still felt the same way about these games now as I did then, especially since the Dreamcast really means so much to me, and my thoughts on this list, and especially the number 1 game on the Dreamcast, haven't wavered. So Skies of Arcadia is my pick for the number 1 game on the SEGA Dreamcast. And I have to say this, full disclosure, I am not an RPG kind of guy, and I did not own this game during its original release back in November of 2000. I only recently discovered this game after making it a part of my complete North American library and doing some research on why so many people loved it. Everywhere I turned, everybody talked about Skies of Arcadia. And when I popped it in for the first time, I was just wowed. The graphics, The music, the characters, the sprawling world, the battles, the cutscenes, the story, it all hooks you. And I found myself playing it for hours on end. It was also critically acclaimed by just about every publication at the time, and it's nearly always in the top 5 of any Dreamcast list. It's right up there, possibly just ahead of Shining Force as one of my favorite RPG games of all time, and that's saying a lot considering I love Shining Force, especially on Sega CD, which I've done a top 10 list for my favorite Sega CD games, so check that out, see where Shining Force ends up. But Skies of Arcadia is the #1 game on the Sega Dreamcast.
That was easy. Let's go!
So there you have it. That is my top 10 list for the Sega Dreamcast, my favorite system of all time. I, of course, would love to hear what your top 10 list is, or if you have any opinions on the games that I included on this list, I'd love to hear that too, so please leave a comment before you go. But just remember that games affect and mean different things to everybody. Video games can elicit emotions from amazing or difficult times in our life. They could also remind us of people we used to play games with that are no longer with us, or they just transport you back to your happy place. So play nice when you're responding to anybody's comments below, or anybody's top 10 list for that matter, because there is no consensus of what the top 10 is, and that's why we love video games. As always, if you like what you saw, please subscribe before you go, and until next time, I'm Scott Galaxy, and we'll see you again on another episode of the Layman Video Gamer.